that? Yeah. Okay. Just said. Oh, great, great. Yeah. Oh, great. That's good. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. You never hear too much of that. Thank you.
Oh, what time? Almost that time. Oh, he's my kid. My son's favorite chips. Honey barbecue Fritos. They always get happy when I'm going to a meeting. I always bring them that they fight over.
Good evening, and welcome to the public hearing of the city manager's recommended operating budget for the year 2022. Tonight's public hearing is a continuation of the city's one public hearing on the FY 2022 recommended budget. Citizens are permitted to speak only once on any single topic over the two-day public hearing. By state code, each locality is required one public hearing on the budget. To help ensure that City Council hears from citizens on their budgets issues, we have decided to have two. On March the 23rd, 2021, the city manager presented her FY 2022 recommended operating budget to City Council. Two work sessions have already been held by City Council to hear detailed presentations on the recommended budget. On April the 27th of 2021, there will be a third work session in which City Council will continue to discuss the recommended budget and communicate its desires to the city manager after having heard from the public. On Tuesday, May 11th, 2021, City Council plans to adopt the Newport News operating budget and adopt the city's total operating budget as scheduled. By state code, the last legal adoption date of the school's budget is May the 15th and June 15th for the city manager's operating budget. The budget hearing tonight is being carried live on the city's cable channel Cox 48 and Verizon Channel 19, as well as on the city's website, nnva.gov. You may view the full city manager's recommended fiscal year 2022 operating budget online on the city's webpage and in your local library. The Director of Budget and Evaluation, Lisa Cipriano, will provide a brief overview of the budget that was presented to City Council. Ms. Cipriano.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Just briefly, this budget was started in September of 2020, of course, during the height of the pandemic. And the pandemic needs and demands have changed every single month since it started a year ago. So while we were formulating this operating budget, we had to take in consideration our view of the future of where the pandemic would lead us, what our needs were to continue to address, both in social distancing and how we were going to recover after the pandemic waned over time. So we also looked at how the pandemic was impacting our revenue streams, but more importantly, where did we want to be and what did we want to do after the pandemic had cleared? So we were anticipating that our major tax base, our real estate tax revenue, would be increasing due to the reassessments that were currently happening. And all the classifications of the property, except for commercial and industrial properties, have increased in value due to the reassessment. We know that we have a stable tax base in our real estate taxes, personal property taxes, and machinery and tools. We've also seen some growth in some of our revenues, such as sales tax. We also have seen revenues that have been impacted by COVID, meals tax, and anything that's social gathering, travel, amusement, car rentals, and anything that is a sports or festival type of activity. We have seen declines, and we are anticipating a slow and measured restoration of those revenues over time. The city manager, most importantly, has not recommended any new taxes nor any tax increase. There is one small user fee increase that I'll discuss later. So, while the city lives within the revenues that it generates, our major consideration on building the expenditure side was sustaining our contribution to schools, as education is a very important element of the city as a whole, investing in our employees, the hardworking employees that do everyday work, as well as how they've been addressing the COVID responses. Our debt service we knew would be increasing due to a new bond issue that we had last month. And we have, since 2016, invested 100% in our closed NERF retirement plan, as well as have always invested 100% of our annual contributions in our VRS pension plans. More importantly, we wanted to invest in the strategic priorities that City Council adopted in 2019. And that's where we were, the looking forward portion. Where did we want to be? And then moving forward. So, of the strategic priorities, the major investments in the city manager recommended budget for 22 is in people, in health, safety, and well-being, in education and learning, in opportunity and economic prosperity, and most importantly, in fun, entertainment, and culture. So the total operating budget for the entire city is just short of $960 million, just short of $1 billion. And that includes the general fund, the school fund, and all the special revenue and trust funds, such as the pension fund, our parks and recreation funds, and the like. This is a quick pictorial of where the money is spent, with the majority of that $960 million in the general fund. The general fund houses the majority of services that our citizens are familiar with: fire, police, libraries, parks, our codes compliance and administration as well. The general fund alone is $525 million. And where's the revenue coming from to show that growth from the current year to the 525? All other taxes and fees, and this includes our hotel lodging tax, our amusement tax, car rentals, anything sports activities related, will decline by $4.2 million. And then federal and state grants we've incorporated in our operating budget since 2016. We've been very successful in garnering additional grants, and we're anticipating those to go up by $200,000. So overall, the general fund will increase by $10.8 million. And this is a brief picture of where the money comes from. About 60% comes from general property taxes, other local taxes, which are sales tax, meals tax, amusement and lodging is about 20%. Our state revenue that supports various different programs, but primarily our human services programs, is 14%, and then all other fees and charges for the city are 8%. So slightly less than 80% comes from two major revenue streams.
Excuse me, Lisa,
ma'am.
can I ask you one? What is what the state sent us this year compared to last year? Is it equivalent or more?
It's roughly a little bit more. Remember, the human services programs fluctuate due
Right.
to the client use. So that changes year to year, but our state highway maintenance funds that support road maintenance was increased by $400,000. So areas like that, we get a lot of reimbursements for our constitutional officers and for our detention centers. And then those fluctuate by population as well. So.
Thank you.
Mhm. And again, most importantly, this budget is being sustained with a real estate tax rate of $1.22 per 100 of assessed value, which has been the same since City Council adopted that for 2014. So where's the money going to in the general fund? Support for schools is about 23% of the operating budget. Public safety and corrections is 25%. Our health and human services programs are 9%. Our debt service is about 8%. And everything that's not fire, police, corrections, health, welfare, school support, and debt all fits into 38% of the operating budget. So this is another way to look at it, how the tax dollar is broken up. 23 cents of every tax dollar goes to schools, 17 cents to public safety, 8 cents to health and welfare, 3 cents to our public works for streets maintenance and administration. Parks, libraries, and development is about 5 cents. Debt service is 8 cents. Corrections and detentions is about 7 cents. Our grants are 1 cent. Our non-departmental, which includes our pension contributions, is about 18 cents of every dollar, and everything else that is not covered by these major groups falls into 10 cents on every dollar. So specific changes in the general fund are investing again in our employees. While it's recommended that the average salary increase be 3%, we are going to be careful with that, monitoring COVID and its impacts. If there are any resurgence or if there are any variants that unfortunately would raise their head, we're just going to monitor that, and that's at $3.9 million. Our investment in education and learning would be establishing a new public-private partnership for early childhood initiative, and this would be from infants to 4 years old, that age group. Our contributions to our retirement funds are increasing by $831 million. Our debt service is going up by $268,000. And an initiative that was started last year and we hope to actually bring to fruition this year is our youth justice peer court for juveniles at $120,000. Our support for schools will remain at $121 million. The schools budget that was presented to you early in March was based on the governor's proposed budget of December 2020. With an estimated revenue increase of $10.7 million. The school superintendent had the blessing or the misfortune, no matter how you look at it, to present on the same day that the governor re-released a new estimate for the operating budget on March 9th. City Council heard earlier this week on Tuesday that that revised budget now shows state revenue increases of $12.1 million higher than the current fiscal year. So this $10.7 million is actually $12.1 anticipated to be new revenue from the state for our schools. With that, the school superintendent asked that the city funding remain level at $113 million, and they will be experiencing some lower costs due to debt service at $420,000. And separately, in your CIP, the city funds $2 million in cash to replace school buses every year. The one fee that I mentioned earlier, the stormwater management fee, goes to support drainage projects throughout the city. A lot of those are mandated by our consent order and by state permitting. And to do so, and to keep up with the debt service associated with those type of projects, it is proposed that an additional 40 cents per month, or $4.80, be increased on the rate for the homeowner. So $4.80 per year is what the homeowner would see in the rate increase. So the next steps in your operating budget, of course, tonight's the continuation of the public hearing. The recommended budget is in all the public libraries and posted online. And we will continue to have City Council topics discussed at your work sessions. And of course, if anybody has any questions, please call us. And I know the city manager would love to answer your questions as well. So one other separate presentation at the request of the Vice Mayor on Tuesday night was a discussion about the reassessment process and how that actually works. So if I could indulge just for one more minute. The reassessment process for real estate properties happens every year. And to be absolutely clear, there is no proposed real estate tax rate to support the FY22 operating budget. The rate will remain at $1.22 per 100 of assessed value. The real estate tax rate is often asked, can we charge different properties differently in different rates? The answer is no. By state code, regardless of the parcel, the rate is applied the same. So whether it's an apartment, whether it's a trailer court, whether it's a leasehold, single-family dwelling, industrial, commercial, the rate is still $1.22 per 100 of assessed value. and that falls under state law. The breakup of the property types, of the percentage of the tax base, is about 56% of our tax base is residential properties, and 44% is commercial properties. So the process itself is required by state law. Even though the localities can determine how frequent our neighbors in York County is an every other year reassessment, ours is annual. Each parcel in the city is reassessed at fair market value. The real estate assessor must submit to the state by September 1st the levy and the land book for all the properties where it's validated by the state. And then the assessment happens and becomes current on July 1st. And then the first billing cycle on the new reassessment is December, is the December billing. So the assessment notices that went out at the end of March. Those reassessment values will take place and be effective on July 1st. And all property owners would see that change in their bill for the December 2021 billing. So I hope that.
Could I ask,
Yes, ma'am.
just for other people, for the people, they need to know that they can appeal that decision
Correct.
if they don't, if they have reason to think it's too high or.
And the appeals process begins next week.
And I want to stress, we encourage
Yeah.
everyone to do that. And something that came up Tuesday night that, again, I want to stress is the city manager or city council cannot get involved in this process. It is prohibited by law. So the reassessment process is solely the responsibility of the city assessor.
Vice Mayor?
Right, so thank you. So, thank you, Madam Manager, for reiterating that as well. Thank you. But thank you, Pat, as well, Councilwoman Woodbury as well, for your comment, because I think it's important that they understand that they can appeal it.
Yes, ma'am.
And how that process is it that they contact the city assessor's office for the appeal?
Yes, and that will start the process. Generally, a conversation with the assessor who did the property valuation clears up a lot of the questions.
Okay, because I think that's important that they understand that. A lot of times, they feel like things are being done to them without any recourse or without them having any way of voicing their concern. So that's always a concern for me, that their voice does matter, that
Yes.
they do have, there is something in place where they can contact the city assessor's office, state what their concerns are, and then that is worked through with them.
The individual assessor walks it through with the citizen and explains how that determination was come to.
Okay. And so well, I guess you can't answer that, the city assessor would have to answer the next question I was going to ask. So where we talked about fair market value, have there ever been cases where this property, even though it's in the same neighborhood, the value is not the same because my neighbor is not keeping his property up, but because I'm in that neighborhood, my market value will be affected by that?
And that the assessor would explain that, and yes, that is taken under consideration.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
Madam Manager, is it possible that we could put a form online for citizens to do that in the midst of the pandemic so that they could get the process started that way? And in that way, when the assessor gets the information, he'll have a chance to review it prior to the citizen having to wait for some prolonged period of time to get a response. Is that a possibility?
Sure, but generally they respond almost immediately because there's a time frame, as Lisa said.
Okay.
The board starts hearing things next week.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we'll do everything we can to get some additional information out, make sure that
Well,
citizens know what
I just
their
wanted to
options
point
are.
out, the assessor's office holds hearings internally starting next week. There is a board of review of real estate assessment if you're not happy with what happens with the assessor's office. Those members are appointed by the circuit court judges, and they sit from the beginning of September till November, and they hold hearings and can also challenge the assessment. Then the third avenue would be to file a challenge to the assessment in circuit court.
Okay,
So there are
is it-
three
is-
ways to challenge.
Is it a time frame, Mr. Attorney?
The
To file
timeframe-
that complaint?
The timeframe to deal with the assessor, I mean, they have a formal period where you can talk to them now. Although most of the time, if you think your property is overassessed because, for example, the property hasn't been well maintained, they'll come out and look at it
Oh.
and reduce it. But then there's also the formal board of review process that takes place in the late summer, early autumn. And then you always have up to current and 3 years to file an action to correct the assessment in circuit court.
Oh, 3 years, okay.
Okay?
Cool.
And
Thank
the
you.
assessor's office is always available if you have questions throughout the year.
Thank you.
Yeah, continuation of the public hearing.
Okay, so we will now continue with the public to give their input. Since I see the lights on, I'm assuming that the podium lights work as well? Good, so you have 3 minutes. After you give your name and address, the green light will come on. At the end of 2 minutes, the yellow, and at the end of your 3 minutes, the red light will come on, and we ask that you take your seat. First person to speak is Jason Young. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Price, members of City Council. Jason Young, Executive Director of Community Brain Injury Services. Community Brain Injury Services is a designated safety net provider for the Newport News and the entire Virginia Peninsula area for survivors of brain injury. Here tonight to say thank you for your continued support of our clubhouse program here called the Denby House in your proposed budget. The funding that you provide is critical not only for our full staffing of the clubhouse, but it's an essential part of our state contractual obligations to engage our local communities we serve to leverage our state funding to more fully serve those communities. Like everyone else, this past year has been a year like no other, and I just wanted to give you a brief update on what we've been up to. First of all, brain injury is defined as a chronic illness by the Centers for Disease Control. So as such, our service population is at a heightened risk due to COVID. And when the pandemic first hit, almost all in-person services had to shut down. We were very quick to adapt almost overnight to an all-virtual platform to continue our services, which included purchasing tablets, ensuring Wi-Fi access to more than 300-plus clients within our service system. However, we also knew that as a safety net human service provider, it was essential for us to reopen our in-person services. One of the very reasons that a clubhouse program like the Denby House exists is to break the social isolation that's so commonplace after disability, and I think this is a concept our entire society is much more familiar with now due to COVID. That prolonged social isolation has an array of debilitating mental health impacts on so many. We were one of the first brain injury providers in the state to reopen our services in July. We did so with an array of safety precautions, reorganization of our space, continually updating our protocols. We accessed some of the CARES money from the City of Newport News in order for us to purchase PPE, air filtration for our clubhouse as well, so thank you for that. With that said, many of our clients, clubhouse members, have elected not to return to in-person yet. Because of this, we continue to offer daily virtual services alongside our in-person services, and we'll continue to offer this dual hybrid level of services until such a time that COVID is no longer an impact that it is right now. Lastly, and I think one of the most important things we've done all year is that we partner with a local pharmacy here, Medicap, and we put on 2 vaccination clinics within our service system to the people that we serve as well as their caregivers, and we gave out a total of 240 vaccinations at these 2 clinics, one up at our Richmond clubhouse and the other here at the Denby House. At our clinics, we noticed we had people with wheelchairs, people with walkers, people with cognitive deficits, and persons that just had a lot of anxiety and perhaps some hesitancy with getting the vaccine. But because we had it at our facilities, at a place that they knew and with folks that they were comfortable with, they were able to get vaccinated. And there's been a lot of discussion on vaccine equity, making sure the vaccine gets into underserved community. I haven't heard a lot of discussion about the disability community, but we're proud that we're able to make the vaccine accessible for our community and the people we're charged with serving. Our ability to successfully navigate this would not be possible without the City of Newport News' funding and ongoing support. And I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of our board and the people that we serve.
May I ask you a question?
Certainly.
How many do you all serve? I mean, how many are in your service unit here?
So we serve about 300. We serve an 18-locality service area that includes Metro Richmond as well as the Virginia Peninsula. About a third of our service population is down here in the Virginia Peninsula service area, so about 100.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. And if council hasn't visited, I would encourage you, if you're taking visitors at this point, to do that. They do some great work there. It really is impressive. Thank you.
We are not taking visitors yet, but I hope in the next 3-6 months that maybe we'll be able to, and we'd love to have you out.
If
Yeah,
we've
I
been
just-
vaccinated, right?
Exactly, exactly.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to comment and thank you again for coming for your presentation tonight. One of my church members' brother comes to the Denby House or was one of your clients, and she has spoke nothing but high praise for you all. And I was glad that I knew about the Denby House and could encourage your brother to continue to access those services. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. That's one of the reasons I like to come tonight. One of our members told that he heard about the Denby House because he saw me talking on public access at these budget hearings. So it's a good way to get the word out as well.
Yes. So thank you so much.
So are you guys maintaining the garden during the pandemic? Because the last time I came, it was such a beautiful garden and the,
Yes, they are putting the garden in right now. Yeah,
all right, good, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Carol Carr? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Carol Karkoff, and I live here in Denby, right off of Beechwood Drive. First, I want to thank all the council, the many of you who sent letters of gratitude for my husband, Mike Karkoff, when he passed, January the 1st of this year. Thank you very much. It was very thoughtful. Also, mainly for the budget, I'm hoping that the swimming pool that has been planned to be built here at the Denby Community Center will continue to be and remain on the budget. The first time it was on, it was once removed. But at this end of town, it will be very special and nice to have a swimming pool. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Checks in the mail. Those are all the names I have. Does council have any comments?
No, I just want to thank everybody who are listening tonight, and thank you, Madam Manager, for continuing to host this in the Denby section of Newport News. I know if it wasn't for the pandemic, we probably would be packed tonight. But we do appreciate those who came to speak tonight, and the Denby House and Ms. Karkoff, we appreciate you, and our prayers are continued with you for Mike. We know what a great guy he was, and I know you guys were two peas in a pod, so thank you. Thank you for continuing to be included in the community, and thank you for speaking on the upcoming swimming pool. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, we stand adjourned.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
You need to vote to close the public.
Yes, I guess we need to do that. We're back in session. We need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Call the roll, please.
Councilman Harris,
4.
Councilman Jenkins,
4.
Mayor Price,
4.
Councilwoman Scott,
4.
Councilwoman Vick,
4.
Councilwoman Woodbury,
4.
Vice Mayor Cherry. 4. Motion carried, 7-0.
I saw someone raise their hand. Did you need to speak, ma'am? You didn't get an opportunity. Did you sign up?
I didn't sign up because I thought for sure somebody else would ask the question for me.
Well, if you would, yes, quickly. I mean, not quickly, but
You can tell me quickly if you want to. I'm Kelly Fox. I live in Denby, and I was trying to figure out, and I really don't know how to figure it out. Is there a plan to do a freeway exit off of 64 at Denby?
what I'm going to do, since that's not pertaining to our budget, is have you talk to our manager, city manager. She can give you a minute or an hour talk on that.
Take your pick.
So we'll let you.
No, I'll be happy to.
pick which one
We
to-
could
which
talk
one-
later. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll talk to you rest.
Thank you so much. With that being said, we stand adjourned.